I'm Maya Chen. I'm 28, I'm a software engineer, and for the first time in my life, my Denver apartment is quiet. 3 days ago, I changed the locks. I'm finally breathing. Then, the knocking starts. It's not my landlord. It's too firm, too rhythmic. I look through the peephole and my heart stops. 2 Denver police officers. I open the door, my pulse hammering in my throat. Miss Chen? The taller officer asks. His voice is calm, professional. We received a call from your mother, Helen. She said you've been acting erratically, changing locks, not answering calls, and that she's worried you might harm yourself. The air leaves my lungs, heat climbs my spine. My mother didn't call because she was worried. She called because she was angry. This isn't a wellness check. It's a punishment. I let them in. They see the spotless apartment, the laptop open to my code, the framed master's diploma on the wall. You look fine, ma'am, the officer says, almost embarrassed. As they leave, he pauses. Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. Happens more than you'd think. I lock the deadbolt behind them, my hands shaking, but not from fear, from fury. She declared war. She has no idea what she just started. Have you ever set a boundary, only to have someone try to burn your entire life down just to prove you can't? That police visit wasn't the beginning. It was the consequence. The real story started just days earlier, at my master's graduation. The stadium shimmered in the May sunlight, a huge, buzzing sea of navy gowns and proud families. I could smell the hot dogs and the perfume from the row in front of me. I kept checking my phone. No texts. No missed calls. I told myself they just got stuck in traffic. Then, my name echoed across the massive speakers. Maya Elaine Chen, Master of Science. I walked. I smiled. I shook the dean's hand. My heart was pounding, waiting for that one cheer I'd know. I looked right at the front rows, at the reserved for family section I'd emailed them the tickets for. It glared back at me, empty, metallic, cold. Sunlight bounced off the seats where my mother, my father, and my sister should have been. Not one of them showed up. I kept the smile plastered on my face. I didn't trip. I didn't stop. I walked back to my seat, the diploma cover feeling heavy and stupid in my hand. I shouldn't have been surprised. I really shouldn't have. They skipped my college graduation too. I remember calling my mom that day, standing alone on the quad, holding my bachelor's degree. "Oh, honey, we couldn't make it," she'd said, her voice distant. "Chloe had finals. You know how stressful that gets." It was always Chloe. My sister Chloe, the golden child, the one who got piano lessons, prom dresses, and unwavering attention. I was the scapegoat, the reliable one, the one who was just expected to succeed, quietly, and then pay for everyone else's comfort. This time, with my master's, I'd let myself hope. I'd been coding 80-hour weeks, working as a TA, living on instant noodles. I thought maybe this achievement would be big enough. Maybe this time, they'd see me. After the ceremony, my classmate Ruby, a girl with a laugh as bright as her pink-streaked hair, grabbed me for a hug. "You did it, Maya! We're free!" Her parents were beaming, snapping photos. Ruby turned, scanning the crowd. "Where's your family? Are they meeting us for dinner?" I felt my smile tighten. "Oh, they're just running late. You know, traffic." The lie came so easily. After 28 years, it was a reflex. "Well, text me," she said, before getting swept up in a hug from her grandmother. I watched her go. I watched all of them, the bouquets, the tears, the families linking arms, bursting with pride. I just stood there. Eventually, I made my way to the parking lot. I sat in my beat-up Civic and just watched it all from behind the wheel. Horns honking. Balloons floating above car roofs. For a second, I let myself imagine it. My mom waving, my dad holding a bouquet, awkward but proud. Even Chloe, probably on her phone, but there. Then an engine started next to me, and the vision vanished. I put the key in the ignition, put the car in reverse, and drove home. Alone. My whole life, my role was the provider. I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who was good at math. Chloe was the one who was full of personality, In my family, that meant I was the scapegoat and she was the golden child. I have this memory that plays on a loop. I'm 16. It's 5 a.m., and the sky outside is a dark bruised purple. I'm wearing a stiff brown Starbucks apron, and the smell of burnt espresso and sweet syrup is so thick I can taste it. My hands are raw from the sanitizer. The steam wand shrieks, and I'm pulling shots, calling out names: grande latte for Mark, venti macchiato for Susan, just trying to get through the morning rush. Then, my phone buzzes in my apron pocket. It's my mother, Helen. A text. Not "how's your shift?" Not "are you tired?" A demand. "Hey, Chloe needs new piano lessons. The advanced teacher is more expensive. Need it by Friday." And it's described. I remember leaning against the stainless steel counter for just a second, the cold seeping through my shirt. I was on my feet for 6 hours, and my paycheck, the one that was supposed to be for my college fund, was already spent. I'd text back, "Okay, how much?" "Just a little extra. Also, her field trip is next week." That was the language of my childhood. Just a little extra. When I'd get home, exhausted, smelling like coffee grounds, she'd sometimes give me a quick, dry hug. "You're our pride, Maya," she'd say. "So responsible. We're so lucky." I clung to those words. I thought they meant love. I didn't understand, not for a long time, that pride was just the word she used for obligation. Responsible was just the word she used for ATM. The real breaking point, the one that should have taught me, happened when I was 18, applying for college. I had that Starbucks job, and I also tutored algebra. I had saved thousands of dollars in a joint savings account with my mother, an account clearly labeled Maya's College Fund. I went to the bank to pull a statement for my financial aid application. I sat in my car, tore open the envelope, and my blood ran cold. The balance was $43. I drove home, my hands shaking on the wheel. I walked into the kitchen where my mother was cooking, and Chloe was at the table, scrolling through Instagram, giggling. "Where is it?" I asked. My voice was small, tight. "Where's my college money?" Helen didn't even turn around from the stove. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, we needed it." "Needed it for what?" It was years of work." She finally turned, annoyed. "Chloe had her senior prom, Maya. Did you see her dress? She was the most beautiful girl there. You wouldn't want her to miss that, would you?" I looked at Chloe. She just shrugged, her eyes never leaving her phone. "It was a really nice dress. I had to take out thousands in extra student loans for my freshman year. All for a silver dress Chloe wore once and probably left on her floor." I told myself this master's degree would be different. This degree was my armor. I got a scholarship. I took the T.A. position. I paid for it all myself. No joint accounts, no little extras. I thought if I achieved something so big, so undeniable, on my own, that maybe, finally, she'd see me. Not the backup plan, not the paycheck. Me. Her daughter. I really thought that. I was so stupid. It was 3 days after the empty seat graduation. I was in my apartment, sitting on the cheap IKEA couch that I'd built myself. My new diploma was leaning against a stack of textbooks on the floor. I hadn't hung it up yet. The silence in the room was heavy. I was just starting to process the sting, the humiliation, the profound emptiness of that stadium. Then, my phone lit up on the coffee table. I felt a stupid little jolt of hope. Maybe she's finally calling to apologize. Maybe she's sending a congrats text. I picked it up. It was my mother, Helen. The text read, "Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. That was it. "No, congratulations on your master's degree, Maya. No, we are so sorry we missed it. No, how are you? Just, need. Just numbers, a deadline, an invoice. Like I was her vendor, not her daughter. $2,100. I stared at the message, reading it over and over. The words seemed to blur. $2,100. For Chloe. For a party. After they couldn't even bother to pay for gas to see me graduate. I opened my own banking app. I looked at the number in my savings account, $3,041. That was it. That was everything I had left after 6 years of nonstop work and school. Every double shift, Every line of code written at 3 a.m. Every holiday I'd worked. It was supposed to be my security deposit for a better apartment, my emergency fund, my future. And she wanted almost all of it. For a sweet 16. For the sister who never even called me. For the sister whose prom dress I had already paid for with my college fund. Something inside me, something I'd been pushing down for my entire life, something small and tired and so deeply ignored, finally, stood up. The hope I'd felt just 30 seconds earlier curdled into something else, something cold and sharp and solid. It wasn't just anger, it was clarity. It was the sudden, awful, liberating realization that I had been trying to earn love from a person who was incapable of giving it. I was trying to fill a bucket that had no bottom. My thumbs moved before I even thought about it. I opened my banking app again. I hit transfer. I selected her name. My fingers were perfectly steady. I typed in the amount, $1. I went to the memo line. I typed one word, congrats. I hit send. My heart was pounding, but my hands were still. I watched the confirmation screen pop up. Your $1 transfer to Helen is complete. I put the phone down. I stood up. I walked to the junk drawer by my front door. Underneath a pile of takeout menus and old batteries was the spare key my mother had insisted on keeping. For emergencies, she'd said. I knew, even then, she just meant for unannounced visits. I picked it up. It was cold. I walked to my kitchen, opened the trash can, and dropped it in. It made a small clink against a glass bottle. That night, I called a locksmith. He arrived around 8 p.m., an older man with kind eyes. Changing the locks? He asked. No judgment. Just a security upgrade, I said. I stood there and watched him work. I listened to the sound of the drill, the whir of the old mechanism coming out. The smell of metal and oil filled my small entryway. He unwrapped the new deadbolt, shiny and bronze. He slotted it into place. He tightened the screws. He handed me the new keys. You're all set, ma'am. After he left, I stood in my doorway for a full minute. I tested the new lock. It clicked into place with a solid, heavy thunk. It was the most beautiful, most powerful sound I had ever heard in my life. I leaned my forehead against the door. I didn't cry. I just breathed. It was the first real boundary I had ever built. And it was this action, this $1 transfer, this one new lock that triggered her. It's why she called the police. She felt her control slip for the first time. And she was willing to do anything to get it back. The morning after the police visit was different. The adrenaline was gone, and in its place was a cold, buzzing dread. The silence in my apartment, which had felt so powerful just 24 hours ago, now felt thin, brittle. My mother, Helen, hadn't called. She hadn't texted. After sending 2 police officers to my door to declare me mentally unstable, she just went silent. And that was so much scarier than her yelling. Her silence wasn't peace, it was strategy. I made coffee, the rich, dark smell usually comforting, but today it just smelled bitter. I sat down at my laptop, intending to work on job applications. I needed to focus on my future, but I couldn't. My mind kept replaying the officer's words. Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. Panic. What does a person like my mother do when she panics? When she loses control of her primary source of income? When her human ATM finally changes its PIN? She doesn't just call the police. That was a warning shot. That was just to humiliate me, to scare me back into line. A sick, icy feeling pooled in my stomach. It was a gut instinct, a quiet little voice that said, check your accounts, check everything. I opened a new tab. I logged into my credit report service. The page loaded. I saw it instantly. My stomach didn't just drop, it evaporated. It felt like I was falling. The room tilted. 2 new credit inquiries. March Dodekth. March Pedwar Ardot. Capital 1. Discover. I didn't apply for these. My heart started hammering against my ribs, so hard it physically hurt. My skin went cold. No. This wasn't real. I clicked, my fingers fumbling on the trackpad. I pulled the full, detailed report. It was worse. It wasn't just inquiries. They were active accounts. Opened last month. My breath hitched. I couldn't breathe. And then I saw the mailing address listed for both new cards. It wasn't my apartment in Denver. It was my parents' house in Littleton. She had them sent there, where I wouldn't see them, where she could intercept the mail. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely scroll. I clicked on the Capital One account details. Balance, $5,300. I clicked on the Discover. Balance, $3,512. Almost $9,000. And then, I saw the transaction history. My vision tunneled. The only sound in the room was the click, click, click of my own pulse in my ears. Cherry Creek Events, $4,000 deposit. Denver DJ Agency, at 500. Glam Studio, 8 hair and makeup, $800. Avery's Sweet 16 invites, $450. I read the list, and all the pieces slammed into place with the force of a physical blow. My mother's text. Need $2,100 for your sister's Sweet 16. It wasn't a request for money, it was a setup. She wasn't asking me for $2,100. She was trying to get me to pay the first bill on the fraudulent cards she had opened in my name. If I had paid it even $100, it would have looked like I was acknowledging the debt, that I knew about the cards. It would have tied me to them. My God. She didn't just steal from me, she tried to frame me for it. She built a digital cage and was trying to trick me into walking right into it, all while planning a lavish party for my sister. The cold dread vanished, replaced by a white-hot, razor-sharp fury. She didn't just declare war, she had been planning this for months. My hands were shaking, but my mind was sharp, razor-sharp. The fury was so cold it felt like high-altitude ice. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I acted. I picked up my phone. I Googled Capital One Fraud Department and dialed the number. My voice, when I spoke, was chillingly calm. My name is Maya Chen. I need to report identity theft. I was transferred. I waited. The hold music was some awful, upbeat pop song that felt like an insult. Finally, a man with a tired voice answered. Okay, Miss Chen. I have your social. Let's look. Yes, I see the two accounts, a Capital One Quicksilver and a Discover It. I did not open those accounts, I said, my voice like a flat line. The agent typed, Okay, I see. Ma'am, these accounts were opened in person at our Littleton branch. We have a signature on file. He paused. It was a long, heavy pause. Ma'am, he said, and his voice was careful now. The application lists a co-applicant who was present at the time, an individual by the name of Helen Chen. My eyes closed. She signed her name. She didn't even try to hide it. She was so arrogant, so certain of my silence, that she signed her own name to her own crime. Helen Chen is my mother, I said. She did not have my permission. I understand, the agent said. We will freeze the accounts immediately and open a formal investigation. You will need to file a police report and— Thank you, I said, interrupting. I will cooperate fully. Send me everything you need. I hung up. Investigation. The word was a life raft. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was a crime. I sat there for a moment. I knew what I had to do next. I opened my phone's voice recorder app. I hit the red record button and set the phone on the table. Then I pulled up a browser window. Colorado phone recording laws. The answer was instant. Colorado is a one-party consent state. As long as I knew the call was being recorded, it was legal. It was evidence. My heart was a cold, hard knot in my chest. I opened my contacts. I found her name, Helen. I pressed call. The phone was on speaker, the recorder app silently capturing everything. It rang once, twice. She picked up on the third ring. Her voice was sharp, annoyed. So, you're alive. The same thing she said to the police. The opening jab. The attempt to paint me as the one in the wrong, the one who caused the worry. Mom, I said. My voice was low, steady. I found the credit cards. Silence. Not a what? Not a what are you talking about? Just pure, guilty, calculating silence. Then, she laughed. It was a hollow, practiced sound. The sound I'd heard my whole life when she was about to dismiss me. Oh, that. she scoffed. Don't be so dramatic, Maya. I was helping you build your credit. You just graduated. You need a good score. You should be grateful. I couldn't believe the nerve. Grateful? You opened 2 cards in my name and spent almost $9,000 on a party for Chloe. I was using it for the family. Her voice rose, indignant. It's family money, Maya. What's yours is ours. You've always been so selfish with your money, acting like you're better than us just because you went to school. Selfish. The word she used for, not a doormat. No, I said. My voice was so soft, it was almost a whisper, but it cut through her rage like a scalpel. No, what's mine is mine. I took a breath. And what's yours is now under investigation. The silence on the line was instant. It was heavy, stunned. I heard her quick, sharp inhale, the sound of panic, the sound of the queen realizing she'd been checkmated. You wouldn't, she whispered. You wouldn't dare. You'll ruin this family. I already did, I said. And I hung up. I hit stop on the recorder. I saved the file. I labeled it, The Truth. Then I sat back and, for the first time, I let myself shake. I called for one last meeting. Not at my apartment, never again. Not at their house. I picked a diner in Littleton, neutral ground. A public place with cracked leather booths and the smell of stale coffee and bleach. A place where you can't scream. I got there first. I ordered a black coffee. I placed a thin manila folder on the table in front of me. They arrived 15 minutes late, a flurry of chaotic energy. My mother, Helen, slid into the booth, her face a mask of annoyed impatience. My father followed, looking tired, and sat beside her. Maya, this is ridiculous, Helen started, making us drive all the way out here. What is this? I didn't say hello. I just slid the folder across the table. She opened it. She saw the Capital One statements, the Discover statements, the highlighted transactions for Cherry Creek Events and Denver DJ Agency. She snapped it shut. I already told you, I was helping you. You forged my signature, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the diner's morning clatter. Don't be dramatic. My father, the enabler, finally spoke. He put his hand over hers, his voice a low, placating murmur. Sweetheart, he said to me. Your mother. She just got carried away. It's a misunderstanding. Let's not blow this up. We can fix this privately. Privately. There it was, the word they had used my entire life. The word that meant, let us hide the abuse. The word that meant, let us sweep your pain under the rug so the neighbors don't hear. He was still talking to the 6-year-old girl from Starbucks. He thought I was still that girl, the one who would just sigh, and take out another loan, and pay for the prom dress. They had no idea who I was. They didn't see the woman who had already saved the recording, the woman who had already spoken to the fraud department. The snap, when it came, was cold. There is no fixing this privately, I said. Helen's head jerked up. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to inform you. My voice was as steady as a flatline. The bank already knows. The fraud investigation is open, the accounts are frozen, they have your signature, they have your address, and they have the recording of you admitting to it. I leaned in, just slightly. You'll be hearing from them. The mask didn't just crack, it shattered. All the color, all the arrogant, indignant anger, just drained from her face. She looked pale. She looked old. She looked, for the first time in my life, caught. I stood up. I took a $10 bill from my pocket and dropped it on the table. That's for my coffee, I said. And I walked out. That night was the night. Chloe's Sweet 16. I was in my apartment. I had a new job application open. But I was just staring at the screen. I knew the party was starting. I could almost hear the music. See the lights. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Miss Maya Chen? A man's voice. Crisp. Professional. This is she. Miss Chen, this is Mr. Davies, from the Legal Representative Office for Capital One. We spoke yesterday regarding your fraud claim. Yes, I said, my heart starting to pound. I'm calling to inform you, he continued, his tone all business, that we have escalated your report. Given the brazen nature of the activity, and the pending charges for the event. We are coordinating with local law enforcement to verify the fraudulent transactions at the venue. Tonight. I had to sit down. What? We're sending a representative, with a police detail, to the event at Cherry Creek to confirm the charges. You are not required to be present. This is just a notification. They were sending the police to the party. I thanked him and hung up. I stood there, in the dark of my apartment, just breathing. 40 minutes passed. 40 minutes of silence. Then, my phone buzzed, a text. From Chloe? Are you insane? Another one, 2 seconds later. The police just showed up. The DJ stopped playing. They're talking to Mom. Another. Everyone is staring. What did you do? I didn't reply. I walked to my window. It had started to rain. I watched the lightning flash silently over the Denver skyline, illuminating the clouds. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt quiet. It was the sound of justice. Not loud, like a storm, but quiet and absolute and final. The storm broke, and 3 days later the wreckage was cleared. An email landed in my inbox. The subject line was, Capital One Fraud Investigation, Resolved. My heart was so still, I wondered if it was beating. I clicked. The email was short, corporate, and absolutely beautiful. It said, Dear Miss Chen, our investigation is complete. The primary applicant, Helen Chen, has acknowledged unauthorized use of your information and has agreed to assume full responsibility for the outstanding debt. The $8,812 balance has been transferred to her name. Your credit report will be corrected within 30 days. We consider this matter closed. I read it 3 times. Not me. Her. Every cent. She had acknowledged it. She had to pay for the DJ, the lights, the invitations, the entire party that never finished. I leaned back in my chair. The sun was streaming through my window, hitting the floor in a bright square. Word spreads. In a suburb like Littleton, it moves faster than fire. You can't have 2 police cars and a bank representative shut down a $9,000 Sweet 16 without the entire town knowing by breakfast. The whispers, my father later told me in a short broken phone call, were everywhere. At the grocery store, at church, in the high school pickup line. Chloe's 30-second party fail video, a blurry clip showing the DJ powering down his rig, while my mother argued with a police officer near the cake, hit 500,000 views on TikTok before she finally deleted her account. The golden child was, for the first time, tarnished. And my father. He was quietly reprimanded at his accounting firm. It turns out, my mother had been using his company's mailroom address to receive the fraudulent statements. His complicity, his willful ignorance, finally had a price. They weren't just embarrassed. They were exposed. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt the absence of weight. I spent the next day cleaning up my own life. I went to the Denver police station and filed the full identity theft report. I filled out the FTC forms. I put a permanent freeze on my credit. Then, I did one last thing. I printed the email from Capital One. I walked over to the wall in my living room. I took a thumbtack and pushed the paper into the drywall. Then I unhooked my framed master's degree from the wall, and I pinned it up right next to the letter. And finally, I went to the junk drawer, dug out the locksmith's receipt, the $150 charge for changing the locks, and I pinned it up right next to my diploma. My 3 documents of freedom. Proof of effort, proof of protection, proof of liberation. I stood back, looking at them. The degree I earned, the boundary I built, the consequence I enforced. That night, I brewed a cup of chamomile tea. I opened my window and let the cool, clean Denver air spill into my apartment. The city hummed below me, a sound of life, of traffic, of people moving forward. And for the first time in my 28 years, the silence in my apartment didn't feel like loneliness. It didn't feel like a pause before a storm. It felt like peace. 6 months later, autumn settled over the city. The leaves on the trees outside my window were a brilliant burning gold. I walked into the lobby of a glass tower downtown, my new employee badge tapping against my coat. I'd started my new job as a software engineer at a top tech firm. I swiped my badge. The elevator doors opened. When I got to my floor, my teammate, Sarah, waved me over. "Hey, Maya, we're grabbing coffee. You in?" My treat. "Absolutely," I smiled. I sat at my desk, surrounded by whiteboards covered in complex code, by colleagues who respected my mind, by people who saw my value, not my wallet. People who gave, instead of just taking. My found family wasn't one or two people. It was my new life. It was my hard-won peace. It was the woman I was finally becoming. On my bookshelf at home, I still have that old lock, the one the locksmith replaced. I keep it as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the heaviest, most toxic thing we carry isn't the burden itself, but the key to a door we're too afraid to lock. If you've ever had to change the locks on your life, on a family member, on a friend, on a past that wouldn't let you go, you are not alone. And you are not the one who is broken. Tell me where you're watching from, so I know how many of us finally chose ourselves. And make sure you subscribe for more stories of liberation.